Hey there, it's Dr. Jewa Lee with another installment of Cooking Keto with Dr. Jewa. I have been doing keto for a little less than 2 months now, so I don't claim to be an authority on keto. However, I can say that I am enjoying the process and how I feel eating a ketogenic diet. As I stated earlier in another broadcast, I'm doing this in support of my honey who is attempting to not lose, but release weight. Um, he's tried almost everything. And I'm happy to say that he's really pleased with the results that he's getting with keto. He's under 200 pounds for the first time in a long time. And so that's encouragement enough for him to really stay with the keto plan despite being a self-proclaimed carboholic. Now, one of the things that was challenging initially was trying to find things to satisfy a sweet tooth, like dessert kind of things, without eating sugar or swirl. I'm not a fan of swirl. I don't know. I like stevia. So fat bombs were a revelation. And dark chocolate fat bombs, I think are really, really great. So I wanted to share the recipe because it's really simple to do. All you need is some grass-fed butter, and I like this brand. I don't know if you can see that. Kerrygold. This time I got the salted version, so this is my first time using the salted version. I have some cocoa that I got from my excursions in Egypt. I love this cocoa. It's really great quality, and it makes great hot chocolate and makes great fat bombs too, so I will show you. You also need some vanilla, and I use this stevia that I got from my travels in Peru, but it's Bolivian stevia. And if you're interested in getting that, you can go to stevia.com.bo and you can get this stevia. Now, I've had this for over 3 years, and I still have quite a bit in here. You really don't have to use a lot of stevia. If you're one of those people who says, I don't like stevia, probably more often than not, you're using too much of it. It's not a 1-to-1. It's not even a 1/2-to-1 or a 1/4-to-1. With this particular stevia, you're using a minuscule amount. And when I show you the amount that you used, you will be amazed. And then last but not least, sea salt. Okay, so I'm going to put the camera down to the bowl so you can actually see what I'm doing here. All right, so we have our bowl. We have our butter. This is 8 ounces of butter. And you want to have it be room temperature so it's soft and you can work with it. And then to that, I'm going to add approximately 4 tablespoons of cocoa. And like I said, I love this. This is great quality cocoa that I have here. And I got it from the bazaar in Cairo. So if you can't do that, you can't go to Cairo to get your cocoa. The next best thing is to go to a place where you know that they serve or have good quality ingredients. A gourmet market or something like that, because the cocoa is what makes these fat bombs sing. So I did 4, and I'm going to do 4.5 because I like my chocolate dark. All right, so we have that, and then I'm going to use 1.5 teaspoons of the vanilla extract. That's one. And then I get my half here. And a half. Okay, and then I'm just going to mix this up a little bit before I add my stevia. Okay, so we have our grass-fed salted butter. We have our cocoa, and see it's spraying around a little bit. So, okay. So I'm just mixing it in with a fork. If you have a food processor, you can use that. I don't like using a food processor. I like doing my stuff by hand. I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't make any difference what it is. If it's cake batter or whatever, whipped cream, all those things, I like whipping it by hand. I know some sense of satisfaction of doing it by hand. I don't know why, but that's what I like. And so we're mixing this so that, see how you can see it's kind of getting incorporated. So you want all of the cocoa incorporated in the butter. The first time I did this, I used a potato masher, like a mashed potato masher, because the butter wasn't as soft as it could have been, and it worked really nice in mashing up the butter and getting the cocoa blended. But this time around, I'm using a fork because butter was really soft. So we put our vanilla extract in here. We put our cocoa in here. And like I said, these are really, really going to be dark chocolate. I like the dark chocolate. So what is the advantage of having fat bombs, you may ask? And why am I just flavoring butter? Basically, that's what it is, flavoring butter so that I can eat it as a treat. Well, you want, when you're doing keto, you want to have good quality fat. And 70% of your diet is fat. 25% of it, 20 or 25, depending on who you, well, actually, yeah, let me just say that. 25% of it is protein, and then the other 5% is carbs. So getting your fat in is really important. And so this is a way of getting fat in and making it a flavorful treat. Also, if you have cravings early on, it's not unusual to have cravings for something usually sweet because you're detoxing or going away from a carb or sugar-oriented diet when you're making the transition to keto. You can use these as a treat. Now, you don't want to OD on fat bombs. So you want to have at least just 1 or 2 a day, no more than 2. And so this is what it looks like. It looks like icing, a really thick icing when you have it all incorporated like this. Okay, so I still see a little bit of yellow at the bottom here, so I'm just going to do it one more time. I'm going to use my little spatula here and just gather all the goodness and make sure I have all the butter. See how I still have some yellow here. I want to get rid of all this yellow. Okay. So no powder left, no butter, no yellow streaks or anything like that. You want to make sure all of it's incorporated, because you really don't want to think about the fact that you're just eating butter when you're eating these. Okay, so we have our mixture here. Now I have a piece of parchment paper. And what you're going to do is you're going to get these mix dollops of this on the parchment paper. Before I do that, let me add my stevia. Now let me show you how much stevia I'm adding to sweeten this. It's not that much. It's not even a teaspoon. It's not even a quarter of a teaspoon. When I show you this, you're going to be like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't take that much. So I'm using the end of a table knife. And I'm just going to gather a little bit like so. You see that? That's what I'm starting with. I'm going to do like this, and I'm just going to sprinkle it in there. So it looks like this, just a little bit right there. And then I'm going to incorporate this in, and then I'm going to taste it to see if that's enough. The stevia that I have here is really, really great. It doesn't have an aftertaste to it if you use it properly, and it sweetens really well. So let's mix this up like so. Okay, so I'm going to taste to see if this is what I want. And I can do a little bit more. Right now I'm just tasting chocolate. All right, so just a little bit more. So see, very little bit amount. So I'm going to show you, this is a quarter teaspoon right here. This won't even fill that. I mean, it's not even a quarter of a quarter teaspoon. That's how little of the stevia that I'm using. And my first scoop was about the same thing. So I'm going to say like it's like a 1/16 of a teaspoon of this stevia. If you like the dark chocolate, like the 80% dark, you know, you can play around with the amount of swirl if you want to use swirl or stevia like I'm using. You can play around with that amount. Some people say you can use honey. I don't like using honey. Honey has fructose in it, which is sugar. And so I avoid using the honey. I'm just kind of trying to stay away from that. All right, one more, just a little bit more. I don't want to put too much in there. All right. Still, the amount that I put in here is less than a quarter of a teaspoon. So if you're using the stevia that I suggest, where you go to stevia.com.bo, because the company is in Bolivia, you will see what I'm talking about with this. I use the stevia to sweeten my lemonade, my tea when I feel like sweetened tea, and I just use it as my sugar substitute. Anywhere that I use sugar, I use my stevia, and the amount that I use is really minuscule compared to the amount of sugar or any other sweetener that you would use. That's pretty good. I think we're almost there. And the reason why I'm adding just a little bit at a time, because if you add too much at once, you can't take it back. But with this, adding just a little bit at a time, you're really controlling the sweetness here and getting a good feel for it, because you can't take it out once you put it in. See, this really looks like icing, a really thick icing, or maybe a ganache. Be fancy about it. Okay, so okay, I think that's it. I think we're close. Now the salted butter, this is my first time using salted butter. It really changes the dynamics of this using the salted butter as opposed to unsalted butter, because if you're not a fan of salt or you don't like salty things, you may want to just use the unsalted butter. Okay, so next we're going to dollop this mix onto our parchment paper, just like that. And again, this is another recipe that your kids might like to do because they get to play. It doesn't require any heat to do. And really simple. Simple. Now, my daughter, who is not a dark chocolate fan, loves these. Go figure. I think she's evolving in her tastes. So she's a fan of these. And of course, my honey bunny loves these. He loves dark chocolate, so the darker the better for him. And so when I made these, the first time I actually made them with added ginger to the dark chocolate. So that's another variation that you can do. So you can play with it. You can add chili powder, because I know that chocolate and chili is a favorite in Mexico. It's a combination that they have their hot chocolate with chili. And so you can play it with that. You can put almonds in it if you like, some chopped almonds or chopped other kind of nuts if you like nuts. And ends up, so be adventurous. Okay, I think I have a couple more scoops here. If you hear me sniffling, today was like the first day in Michigan where we've had some sun and some really nice warm weather, and the trees have decided to ejaculate. So pollen is spurting all over the place. And if you suffer from allergies, one of the things that you can do to help alleviate them without having to take Benadryl or all that kind of stuff, the reason why you have the sniffles is because you have excess protein in your body. Your body has undigested protein that you've eaten. So if you're doing keto, you have milk proteins and a whole lot of other things that, other proteins that may not be digesting well. So one of the things you can do is take some digestive enzymes to help digest those undigested proteins, so you won't have an allergic reaction to the amount of protein that your body is holding and trying to process as a result of this pollen, because pollen is also protein. So digestive enzymes, if that doesn't work, well, that should work, but digestive enzymes, if you can't get to any digestive enzymes, then the next best thing would be local bee pollen, bee pollen from a local beehive, or local honey. If you're not doing the keto thing, you can do the honey with no problem, or chlorophyll, liquid chlorophyll. So here are my fat bombs. Da, 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 ba, 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 ba. Ba, ba, ba. Okay, so here are my fat bombs, and now I'm just going to take some sea salt and just sprinkle them, not as much as I did the last time I did it, because the butter I'm using is salted, so just a little bit, just enough to say, hey, check me out. I'm a little bit different here. I got something for you. If you want, you can also sprinkle ginger powder on your fat bombs if you like ginger. And like I said, chili powder. If you like that kind of taste combination, that's really popular in Mexico and Latin America. So you can play around with it. So you're going to put this in a freezer for 30 minutes. Now I'm going to get something I can actually carry this on. Here we go. I'm just going to put this under here so I can transport it to my freezer easily. And I have some fat bombs that I made previously, and this is what they look like when they come out. They look like little chunks of chocolate. Chocolate fudge is, I think, the closest thing that you can think of when you think of fat bombs. Little chocolate fudge droplets. All right. All right. So our fat bombs are in the freezer. But these are the ones that I've made previously. As you can see, little chunks of chocolate, frozen. You can store these in the refrigerator after they've been frozen for around 30 minutes. I just keep mine in the freezer, and they store easily that way. I found when I put them in the refrigerator, they got a little too soft. And so a fat bomb or two a day helps keep, I don't know, away. But yeah, it helps with your fat load that you need to be on top of to make sure that you stay in ketosis. So hope you enjoyed this little video about how to do these fat bombs. Really easy to do. Play around with it. There are other fat bomb recipes, so you're not just locked into chocolate and butter. You can do fat bombs with coconut oil or coconut butter. So happy fat bomb eating. All right, check you later. This is Dr. Jewa Lee. Check me out on drjewa.com and on YouTube at drjewatv.com. Thanks. Have a great day.